Shalom. I'm Cantor David Proser of Kempsville Conservative Synagogue, Kehilat Bet HaMidrash, and you're about to watch the video for the Torah readings this coming weekend, the first 2 days of Sukkot. If you pay attention, you'll notice that I made an error. I gave the wrong dates for the first 2 days of Sukkot. October 3rd and 4th are correct, but on the Tishrei dates, I gave the wrong dates. Oops, I'm sorry. The correct dates for start of Sukkot are the 15th and 16th day of Tishrei. So I'm sorry for the error, but please enjoy the video. Shalom. I'm Cantor David Proser from Kempsville Conservative Synagogue, Kehilat Bet HaMidrash in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And this is Torah portion commentary for the weekend of October 3rd and 4th, 2020. We're going to cover the Torah and Haftorah readings for these first 2 days of the holiday. Saturday, October 3rd is the first day of Sukkot. Sunday, October 4th is the second. Both days are Yom Tov, and both days share the same Torah reading and the same Maftir readings. The Torah reading is from the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, verses 22:26 to 23:44. The reading is from the Parsha of Emor and begins on page 723 of the Eitz Chaim Chumash and page 518 of the Hertz. The reading deals with the standards that must be met for animals presented for sacrificial offerings. They must be perfect and without blemish. The animal should be presented after it's at least 8 days old, and an adult animal and its young must not be sacrificed on the same day. The text then shifts to God instructing Moshe to teach the people about the festivals, linked here by a description of their sacrificial offerings. The seventh day, Shabbat, is the first to be mentioned, and its sacred nature is emphasized. The text continues, Ele Moadei Adonai. These are the appointed seasons of the Lord, the sacred occasions which you will celebrate each at its appointed time. This is where we receive the commandment to observe Pesach, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Each is identified by its month and date, as well as by the offering each requires. The first and last days of Passover, are set aside as holy. All the days are marked by the requirement to eat unleavened bread. The holiday is accompanied by a recognition of the first fruits of the wheat harvest. From Passover, 7 Shabbatot are counted in what we today call the counting of the Omer period, a total of 50 days before the next celebration and its set of offerings. This festival, known to us as Shavuot, but unnamed in the Torah, is also marked as a harvest festival. This progression of holiday listings is interrupted by the command to not reap the full corners of your fields, nor pick up the gleanings dropped, but to leave them for the poor. The reading continues with the first day of what the Torah considers the 7th month as a day of blowing of trumpets, known to us, but not to the Torah, as Rosh Hashanah. The 10th day of that same month is a day of atonement, a day free from work, a day devoted to the affliction of the soul. Finally, the 15th day of that month marks a final harvest festival, with days 1 and 8 marked by the same level of elevated sanctity as that of Passover, what we today call Yom Tov. Here we receive the instruction on the need for and the composition of the lulav and etrog, as well as the command to dwell in Sukkot, in booths. In the words of the Torah, that your generations may know I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them up out of the land of Egypt. The Mafta readings for both day 1 and day 2 of Sukkot are also the same. It's from the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, chapter 29, verses 12 to 16, found on page 934 of the Eitz Chaim Chumash and page 697 of the Hertz. Just like on all other Yamim Tovim, the Mafta reading consists of the command to hold a sacred occasion, this one to be on the 15th day of the 7th month, Tishrei, and to keep a feast before the Lord for 7 days. It also lists the details of the sacrifices that were to be brought for this holiday. The prophetic reading, the Haftorah for the first day of Sukkot, is from the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, verses 1 to 21, beginning on page 1252 of the Eitz Chaim Chumash and page 972 of the Hertz. This Haftorah begins with the siege of Jerusalem by all the nations, and it ends with their survivors being invited to Jerusalem for a second convocation and worship at the Feast of Sukkot. The elevation of the Lord as king over all the earth is clearly of major concern to the prophet, as is the centrality of the house of the Lord for all nations. In that day there shall be one Lord with one name. This line is familiar to us as the last line of the Olenu prayer. V'hoya Adonai lamelech al kol ha'aretz, bayom hahu yihiyeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. The prophet also focuses on the life-saving nature of water. He speaks to all when he promises God's heavenly bounty of rain to all those who will worship the Lord in Jerusalem on the Feast of Sukkot. This Haftorah shows the connection between the festival of Sukkot and rituals for rain. The Haftorah reading for the second day of Sukkot is from the book of 1 Kings, chapter 8, verses 2 to 21, beginning on page 1256 of the Eitz Chaim and page 977 of the Hertz. The events described in this Haftorah represent a transformation of sacred life in ancient Israel, moving the ancient holy objects from the Mishkan, the temporary sanctuary of the wilderness wandering period, to the permanent shrine in Jerusalem, formally closes the period of wandering and inaugurates the use of the grand temple built by King Solomon. In blessing the new temple, King Solomon refers to the cloud in and over the sanctuary in the wilderness that indicated God's continual protecting presence when he declares, "The Lord has chosen to abide in a thick cloud. I have now built for you a stately house, a place where you may dwell forever." According to Isaiah, God's presence in the shrine overarches the city as a sukkah, providing shade and shelter for all. Thus we have the connection to the holiday of Sukkot. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach, good Shabbos and good Yom Tov. We look forward to the day when we can again invite all of our family and all of our friends to join us in our Sukkot as we celebrate this Chag.